What dashboard instruments do you check once in a while when driving? Okay, so yeah, regular intervals. Really just scan the gauges that are already visible to me right here. I do have other gauges on my truck, which of course I have a Pete 579. I have a digital instrument panel here. I usually have it set to show me my speed, and it also shows what my set speed is on my cruise control, whether my cruise is armed, whether it's engaged, whether my Jake brakes are armed, stuff like that. But I do have other digital instruments that I can use as well with a rotary dial that I'll show you a picture of. And I have the other stuff here. So looking from top left, working away around the instrument panel. You know, at first you got, it's out of range on the picture I'm going to show you here. It shows the coolant level up on the top left. Coolant temperature. Ideally, I want to see that somewhere around 180 degrees. Because I did it right after literally just started my truck up, it's going to show that it's at 0 or off scale low, whatever, on the picture you're looking at. But so that'd be a problem there. I know where about the needle should be when I'm driving, so all I have to do is just take a quick little glance down there, and if it looks like it's somewhere other than where I'm expecting it to be, then hey, we might have a problem there. Do I have a thermostat stuck open or closed, or something else going on there? I don't know. Diesel exhaust fluid or DEF, that's the next one below the coolant, and the regular fuel level below that one. Those obviously, they don't need any explanation there. You know where they should be, and if they start getting too low, you get some serious issues. RPM I do look at periodically. More often we'll just listen to the engine. What does it sound like it's doing? I know based on the sound of roughly what RPM it really is running at or about, and so most of the time I can just look out the windshield and do all my gear changes without ever looking at the instrument panel. When you're if you're driving a manual though, get used to it. Hey, go ahead, look at the tachometer is what it's called, the one that shows your RPM. Look at it regularly when you're going between gear changes, so you know you have, and start mating up whatever you see there on the instrument panel with what the pitch of the engine sounds like, and get to know like on a normal gear change on flat terrain, I'm going to do like maybe 14, maybe 1500 RPM at most before I'm upshifting. If I'm going up a grade, I usually go up 100 RPM. And if I'm going down a grade, I'll go down 100 RPM. That's a kind of nice little rule of thumb that might help you out there. Let's see. And same with all my other gauges here. I'm just going to kind of run through them real quick. I have oil pressure. My primary and secondary air pressure gauges on the right side of the main instrument panel. And over here about where my phone mount is at is I have two gauges there. The first one will show what my suspension load is, and that kind of gives me an idea how much pressure is pushing down on the back of my tractor or the front of the trailer. If it's at 0, then there's no weight on it. It means I'm probably bobtail. If I have an empty trailer, I would usually expect it to be around 20 psi, somewhere in that ballpark. If I'm up at my max, for my truck only, not applicable to every truck that has this gauge. My truck specifically, I'm going to want to see it around 70 psi. That'll tell me that I'm right at about 34,000 pounds on my drive axles. Most other trucks, you're going to want the psi at around 60 when you're at 34, somewhere in that ballpark. But again, my truck, I follow what my truck's tendency is, not what other people's are. So I'll watch for that. I tend to know that one's really not such a big deal, except for when I'm just picking up a load, like just got through acquiring a trailer that's already loaded, or just got through loading at a live dock facility. I can use that to help me gauge where if I need to slide my tandems or not. And then of course I got the oil temperature right below that. Now all these things. Also, oil pressure. When you go to CDL school, they're going to probably tell you that the oil pressure should be in a certain range. I think like 20 to 40 psi, if I remember correctly. That's not necessarily valid information, though. It depends on the truck, and it depends on the engine. My truck actually on normal is going to be up above 60, like 60, 70 psi is where I normally am going to be seeing my oil pressure at. So don't go by that. But as far as if you need to do a test for a CDL, yeah, you want to know whatever they're telling you is the correct answer. But in reality, what your truck's actual normal is what the correct answer truly is. All right, so that should kind of help with that. I do have other gauges I can look at. I do have a digital RPM gauge. I have transmission temp gauge. This is all digital. I have to use the rheostat that I took a picture of to cycle between this stuff. Also, my fuel economy and some other odds and ends. But generally, I just keep the digital one on speed and don't worry about anything else. The truck will warn me if anything's getting out of range. Yeah, even if my coolant quantity level is getting low, there's a sensor on my coolant in the reservoir that's going to warn me, hey, your coolant level's low, and stop engine and get it looked at. All right, so that covers that. Just every I don't know, regular intervals like 10 seconds or whatever. Just do a quick scan on your gauges. Yeah, get a mental picture of the pattern. Oh yeah, this needle should look like that. That needle should look like that. Whatever. Yeah, you can just take like half a second to look at your dash, and you'll quickly, just like that, looking at all 8 of these gauges right here on my instrument panel, you'll know right away just by just within half a second whether anything is not where it should be. And same with the oil pressure over here over by my phone mount. So. Yeah, the more you have that down, the less you have to spend time looking down at the instrument panel and away from the road and not knowing what's going on around you. Okay, something else I do want to talk about, avoiding accidents. I had a trainee when I ran Walmart Dedicated. I gave this good advice to, and he loved the advice after, he raves about the advice that I gave him with this. There was a time we had delivered to the Sam's Club in Reno, and we were deadheading back down 395 toward, I-580/395 back toward Colton. And there was a point in time where I was telling him, hey, you're not paying enough attention to your mirrors. You're not aware of what, aware enough of what the traffic around you is doing. And he had said, I'm afraid to look because I'm worried about what this car in front of me is going to do. So I go, well, that should be a clue that you're following too closely. If you can't comfortably look in either your mirrors without worrying about rear-ending the guy in front of you if they decide to slow down, you're following too closely. Back it off. Give some more space. Give yourself more comfort so you can use your mirrors like you're supposed to be using your mirrors. Also, speaking of mirror use, I talked earlier, I didn't really go into I didn't cover the anecdote earlier like I meant to. And I know this is a long video. Bear with me on it. This is a lot, like I said, a lot of good questions, a lot of good answers I'm going to try to give. So an anecdote, I'm going down Donner Pass. This was a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I was with JCT, I know that. I was going westbound from Reno towards Sacramento area, and I had had my radio on, just kind of going about my way. I hadn't even gotten to the brake check area yet, which is before you even start hitting the 6% downhill grades. And I heard what turned out to be a hotshot driver trying to get a hold of another trucker whose brakes were smoking. He tried for 15 miles to get a hold of this guy on the radio. The guy did not have a radio on him, and people wonder why you shouldn't have a radio in your truck, or why radios are not useful. Also, this driver wasn't looking in his mirrors apparently, because had he been, especially on the right side mirror, had he been looking, he probably would have noticed that his right side drive axle brakes were smoking. So again, he's in the right lane, there's nobody on that side, so your natural thought is, I don't need to look there because there's nobody to look for. Au contraire, your brakes could smoke, or you could get some idiot passing you on the shoulder. I just had that happen to me yesterday in between just actually in the Weatherford, Texas area. Stop and go traffic. Had a pickup driver go flying past me on the right shoulder. And I've had it happen before, even at full speed, having people pass me on the right shoulder. Watch both sides. Yeah, you could have a flat tire over there and not know it because you're not looking over there. Where I can see the sides of both of my outer tires over there, so I'd be able to tell you if I have a flat tire on the outer, one of the outer tires on that side because I look in the mirror. Same with smoking. But anyway, Donner Pass, they have a mandatory brake check area, but it's kind of like now a question is this guy actually going to stop for it? Don't know. It turned out I stopped to do my mandatory check, and then before I even got a chance to go off, I think by the time I was even finished going off duty, before I even got a chance to open my door, I see this guy with his smoking brakes pull in just a few hundred feet in front of me, and then a hotshot driver right behind him, coming right in to try to let him, So I get out, we both get our fire extinguishers out just in case. End up telling this guy, dude, you need to stay here because your brakes are smoking. You're going to end up in a runaway truck ramp or killing somebody or yourself if you keep doing this. Because he hadn't even gone to the 6% downhills yet. He'd only been doing 4s and 5s by then. And the worst was yet to come. We ended up, I ended up telling him disconnect from his trailer. And that way, if the tractor does catch fire, it's not going to compromise his trailer or whatever load is in it. And then also, the hotshot driver had a 4x4 with him. So once we got him disconnected from the trailer, we told him, we put the 4x4 in place to use as a wheel chock and told him leave your brakes released. That way, if they do overheat, they're not going to, because if they overheat, now this is something I learned from aircraft maintenance days. If your brakes get really, really hot, not really they're smoking, but if it gets to the point where they can actually glow, there's a chance that your brake pads can fuse to the brake drum. And you don't want that, because once that happens, that thing's not moving. You're going to have to, wherever you're at, that brake's going to have to get replaced right there on the spot before that truck's going to move, unless you want to drag it somewhere. He ended up staying. I told him stay there for about half an hour. Wait till your brakes to cool down first, and then after they've cooled down, then continue down. Turned out he was a part-time driver. He didn't normally drive. It was his brothers or cousins or whoever it was, this trucking company. It was a small outfit, and it was a piece of shit looking like a Freightliner, older Freightliner. Turned out his compression brakes were not functioning properly, so he was trying to go down like at normal speeds that you would with compression brakes when he really should have been doing like what I talked about earlier. Go down at a much slower speed using either of those brake techniques we talked about earlier. So you can't do 55, 60 down those passes with no compression brakes. You need to be going like 30 after you've been that. Put your four-ways on. If that's what it takes for you to get down that hill safely and not using a runaway truck ramp or running off the side of the road or killing somebody else or yourself, then that's what you got to do. All right, so again, use your mirrors regularly. That's another extremely important thing about staying out of accidents. Alright, how to drive safely without skidding and losing control in snow or icy conditions. Alright, that's another really good one. Even if you drive for a not so reputable, I'll just say, I'm not saying they're a bad company, but unfortunately they have certain aspects of them that makes them, merit complaints from other drivers in the industry. And that's Sierra England. That's who I got my CDL from. They have good safety procedures, protocols. Problem is people don't follow them. And people don't teach them. And people don't practice them. And they don't have a good enough, at least for the trainer or trainee side of that, they don't have a good enough quality control program in place to verify that the trainers really are teaching their trainees how to handle steep grades and icy terrain. And honestly, you can't really. How do you verify that when the person's getting trained in the summertime? You can't. And what if you get trained? I'm always on I-40 or I-10 most of the time. I hardly ever see snow. It's not that I don't. I just don't see it much. I know Wyoming's already seen plenty of snow. I have yet to be up there in the wintertime. Now, even last time I was up there was just before before the first snowstorm of the season came in there. So there is that thing, and that's why usually, ideally, a trainer should have at least 2 to 3 years of experience before becoming a trainer. Now, that's a whole nother, often another weed patch there, talking about ideology versus reality as far as trainers and trainees are concerned. Just sticking with what we had at hand here. Generally, on ice or slippery conditions, just remember, don't make any sudden moves in any direction. Don't suddenly slow down. Don't suddenly speed up. Don't suddenly jerk the steering wheel in either direction. If you also think about it as unloading and preloading the suspension on your truck, so you don't want to preload all your steer axle suspension and unload your drive axle suspension, because if you do that, your drive axle suspension is going to become more at risk of hydroplaning or sliding. So be careful with that. Be very gentle. And I actually have a good anecdote for that one too. When I was at Sierra England on the OTR side, I had a trainee in the back. I was absolutely adamant about him not taking me over Donner Pass, because I'd already decided then and there that I was, before I got to that point on that same trip, that this guy is getting dropped off in Salt Lake City after this trip. I'm not letting him go back out on the road with me. He is dangerous. Anyway, I'm going across I-80 in Nevada. We were on our way to Sacramento, and it just looked like normal rainy conditions to me. It was getting rained on. It was about mid-40s, about 44, 45 degrees or so. And so, and then the road looked like it was fine. I figured, everything's okay. I just drive my normal rain speed, which is about 50, 55-ish in that truck. Depending on what I actually saw on the road surface, it looked like I was fine for that. And there was a point in time where I think I was west of the TA in Mill City. Between Mill City and Fernley, I think, somewhere in that area, if I remember right. I remember I was going down a straightaway. There was like a slight uphill grade and then a flat up on top. And up on top of the flat, I saw another truck over there on top of the hill with their four-ways on. Of course, I'm just still a few miles away, so I'm thinking, they're on the right shoulder with their four-ways on, like one of the, half the time it's usually an idiot stopping on the shoulder when they're not supposed to be there, or have no good reason to be there. I started, working my way up. I actually started getting closer and closer, and then I realized the guy's not on the right shoulder. He's in the right lane going about 15 miles an hour. So I go blasting by him, doing 50 miles an hour still, and I'm thinking, maybe he's just got a mechanical problem that's causing him a derate or something, or maybe he's an overly paranoid kind of driver or something. I don't know. I didn't think much of it at first. But then, about another mile or two up the road, I see another truck. It's four-ways on, doing the same thing, driving in the right lane at 15 miles an hour. Then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. I can dismiss one truck as just having a mechanical issue, but if I see two trucks doing the same thing there, then they're onto something that I'm not. And it's time for me to figure out why are they doing that. And put two and two together really quickly and realize they must think this road is more slick than it really is, than I think it is. So I very carefully got my speed down from there to about 30 or so. And when I got to about 30, I kind of moved the steering wheel a little bit more just to try to see how spongy it felt. Because, if you're on a normal, like a dry road condition, you can hit the steering, just turn the steering wheel a little bit and you'll get a pretty immediate response from the truck. But if the road is slick, then if you do that, even, what you would expect, even just a little bit of response, you'll feel kind of like some sluggishness, like the hesitation for it to respond to you. And if you start feeling that, get your speed down and keep it down. And if you're really that concerned about being involved in something, get off the road. And a rule of thumb, if you're gonna get down to less than 30 miles an hour, you shouldn't be on the road in the first place. Just just park it. Don't be one of these guys doing 5 miles an hour like last winter here in New Mexico, in between Santa Rosa and Albuquerque. There's a rest area around the 250 mile marker, which is about 25, 30 miles west of Santa Rosa. I was going westbound, icy conditions there, and the road got bogged down. Like, nobody could go anywhere because why? People were going 5 miles an hour up this icy hill, and they didn't have enough momentum to keep their speed up all the way up to the top of the hill, so they got stuck on the hill and couldn't make it up. And now all the lanes were blocked, and nobody could get around them because these freaking knuckleheads doing 5 miles an hour blocking the entire lane. Finally, I was able to get around them. I think someone finally got out of the way or moved just enough where some of us actually could, and I made sure I wasn't going to start going up the hill until I could get speed up and keep it up to at least 15 plus going all the way up that hill. It's not a very steep hill. It's a real small one, but it's a hill, a rolling kind of hill, whatever, that I had to deal with. So that's something also to consider there. If you're going to drop below 30 miles an hour on an icy road, get off the road and park your truck. You're going to be a problem for other traffic, and you're going to be at risk for other traffic to have collisions with you. And also, you're not doing your clock any good, because why would you want to take, let's say, 4 hours to cover the same distance that you would normally do in 2? You're burning up 70-hour clock for no good reason there. If you have a weather road condition problem, just send your dispatch a message or something if you have a dispatcher, and tell them, hey, I got unsafe roads here. I'm going to park it, wait till the road conditions improve, and then I'll get back on the road. And they'll let you reschedule usually. They'll always, the customers will always let you reschedule if it's road conditions or traffic delays. If you can prove it, that's what caused you to show up late. So no load is ever worth a life. So, like I say, just don't make sudden moves. And double momentum shifts, that's another thing. When you're suddenly slowing down and speeding up and turning at the same time, that's called a double momentum shift. That'll put you at greater risk of a rollover even in dry conditions. So don't do it in icy conditions either. Same like I was talking about. If you preload suspension on one side, you could either slide, or the one that unloads could come out from under, and then just start sliding sideways. So watch out for that kind of stuff. Next, is automatic transmission effective and safe in mountain hills? I would say it is, but I will give you the caveat that I'm not a fan of auto shift. I don't like the truck trying to always shift into gears that I don't want it to be in, and it goes both directions. Like if I'm going down a hill, if I'm trying to control my speed, a lot of times it would force me from like 11th gear all the way down to 9th when I only needed 10th, or maybe 11th gear. Actually, this happened to me all the time on the Walmart fleet. I always delivered in Salt Lake City region, and then I would deadhead back to Colton for my reload. Going down the Cajon Pass, got a 45 mile an hour truck speed limit there. So, and I'm pulling an empty trailer. What I would normally do is just keep it in 11th gear and go down that grade in 11th gear with third stage jake brake all the way down. And I was just perfectly fine. Between second and third stage jakes with 11th gear was just perfect. But I also ran in manual mode. My trainees almost always didn't want anything to do with manual mode. They only wanted to drive auto shift mode, auto econ mode. But now, let's say I'm trying to sleep back there, and they're going down that pass with an empty trailer, and now the stupid truck doesn't know what's going on there. It can't just pick one gear. It doesn't, because the truck is programmed, so if you use third stage Jake at all, even the least bit, if it needs it, it's going to try to get you the next lower gear, or actually to the lowest gear it can grab at the speed you're going. And 45 miles an hour in 11th gear in that truck was a low enough gear where it could jump all the way down to 9th gear. And just imagine doing that on an icy road. All of a sudden it's just, and then the truck would jump back and forth between like 9th and 12th or 9th and 11th or whatever. And it's like, meanwhile, I'm back there trying to sleep. How am I supposed to sleep back there when I got this going on or that? It drives me fucking insane. That's another one of the reasons why they also teach, though, don't use third stage Jakes when you're going down icy terrain. Actually, the trucking companies will actually teach don't use the Jake brakes at all going down steep grades or icy steep grades. But I do it myself, but it also depends on what gear I'm in. And I'll try to only use first and second stage only if I can. And if I'm up in let's say a higher gear, and it's third stage, it's not going to be that effective, so it's not going to have that much of a jerky effect on you. So I'm more willing to use it in that condition, or I'm ready, or I might use third stage Jake, but be ready to take it out of deactivate the Jakes as soon as I can, and get the truck back out of control if it just so happens I happen to find one spot where I lose control or something. Best practice is don't lose control in the first place, and don't do things that'll allow you to lose control. Auto shift, that's the biggest gripe I have with auto shift. It always wants to be in the wrong gear for the wrong situation, it seemed to me. That's just my personal experiences, and I'll never be a fan of auto shift. Personally, I'll never drive one if I can avoid it, but they are here to stay, unfortunately. And they are. I mean, between them and the traction control and other safety systems on the truck, they are. I would say they're capable of keeping you safe on hills. Again, no, I'd rather have manual control of the gears, even on an auto shift truck. At least give me manual mode, so I can force it to stay in a certain gear, and and keep my speed constant. So I wouldn't worry much about auto shift. There are plenty of drivers out here who have lots of experience to drive auto shift who don't have any problems with those kind of conditions with their trucks. All right, next one. I am planning to do regional with Schneider in New Jersey. What's best for me, dry van or fuel tanker? Personally, I like dry van or reefer. A friend recommended me to do tanker because there's less waiting time at shipper and receiver, good training, and better salary. Me, I'm worried about a trailer rollover because of moving liquids. What's your advice, please? Okay, first, I forgot that Schneider even has a tanker division, because in my part of the U.S., I don't see Schneider tankers. I mean, since you mentioned it, I do remember seeing Schneider tankers around other parts of the country, but Southwest, I don't see them. At least I don't know. I can't even remember where I usually ever see them. I think I usually am always somewhere in the eastern half of the U.S. when I see Schneider tankers. So that, I mean, now home time is always an important thing, though. So if you live in New Jersey, then I would, and if being home at a regular, reliably, whenever you want to be there, is an important thing to you, which it is to most drivers. Picking a company that does a lot of loads into your particular area is important to consider. I've heard Schneider's training program is pretty decent. Don't know if I'd say it's perfect or great, but I heard it's decent. But now, if you want to do, if you have your heart more set on dry van or reefer, then I would say go with dry van or reefer. Why do fuel tanker just because your friend is trying to promote it? As far as rollovers, yeah, I mean you got that risk now, but now tanker trailers, they come in different varieties. Some of them just have one big huge tank, and yeah, you're going to be at more risk of problems like that, where sometimes the liquid will force you to kind of go right through your brakes. Like you can be hitting your brakes and the truck will actually go right through your brakes. So if someone slows down in front of you, it's a lot harder to avoid running into them than it would be for me, because I don't have a liquid load that's going to try to drive right through my brakes on me or push through my brakes. Rollovers, I mean, really reefer trailers are probably more prone to rollovers than tankers, I would say, because tankers don't tend to be 13.6. I think they're usually shorter, if I remember right. And reefer trailers, they tend to be top heavy because the reefer unit is mounted to the top of the trailer, and then a lot of times we get loads that are 8 feet high or something, and they're they go up to almost the top of the just below where the chute is at the top of the trailer. So, and that's actually something I was taught in CDL school, is that reefer trailers tend to be the most prone to rollovers. I don't know really how prone tankers are relative to reefers. Not my area of expertise, so I'm going to have to defer to somebody who does have tanker and reefer and other experience, more trucking experience overall than I have, to give you a really good answer to that one. But less waiting time at shipper and receiver, is that really a problem? It's up to you to decide. I don't mind sitting at shippers and receivers. I can go back there and take a 3-hour nap or something, and then now with the HOS rules like they are too, my 14-hour clock stops while I'm doing that as well, if I do at least a 2-hour break. So, all right, you want to take 4 or 5 hours? Okay, no problem. I'll go back there and sleep. And when you're done, all right, I'm ready to go, and I got some detention pay to go with it. I'm laid back though. I don't need to worry about that kind of shit. You have a 70-hour clock to work with. You get 8 days to use it. So what if you end up spending 3 or 4 hours at a shipper receiver? Yeah, you can still burn up your 70-hour clock before you get your recaps, or you're going to still end up in a spot where you're going to have to wait for your recaps to roll into or something along that line. So, are you sitting at a truck stop, or are you sitting in a dock door, or sitting outside a customer's facility waiting for appointment time? Yeah, that's the way I kind of see it. 6 in one, half a dozen the other. Why do I need a bitch about that? Oh, well, I can't get sleep. Well, I don't sleep 8 hours at a time anyway. I usually sleep maybe 4. And then I'm awake because my bladder tells me it's time to wake up, or just I felt like I've slept adequately, and I might take another short nap or something before my 10-hour break is up. Something along that line. So, just me personally, I prefer a reefer for economic reasons too. But again, that's my personal preference. If you think that you're going to like dry van or reefer more, I would say go with what you want, not what your friend wants. It's you who has to live with that decision, not him or her, whoever it is. Better salary. Honestly, I don't have any experience with tanker. I don't know what they tend to get paid, and then depending on, and freight rates are cyclical anyway. It doesn't matter if you're doing flatbed, dry van, reefer, tanker, whatever. Rates go up, rates go down based on what kind of balance there is between how much freight needs to go out versus how many drivers are available to haul it. More drivers available is going to push freight rates down. So there could be a point in time where maybe reefer rates are low because there's a lot of people on the reefer side, but hardly anybody on the flatbed side, and then you'll start seeing people move from reefer over to flatbed because that's where the more lucrative pay is at. And then when the freight rates drop through the floor, they ditch their flatbed trailers and start pulling reefer again because we're more stable. Now, we don't tend to be so volatile with the price swings as the other aspects of the trucking industry tend to be. So better pay. I mean, yeah, if you want to jump around from different freight type to different freight type or something, then yeah, you can get the better salaries out of that. But there are going to be times where freight rates are going to drop through the floor. Like I remember a couple of years ago, whatever it was, I was doing a 34. I think I was doing a 34 in Pennsylvania. Actually, Eric Wildman, one of my friends, actually met up with me there. He was at the time driving flatbed for Western Express. We ended up meeting up there. We ended up doing a video together. That's here on my channel. Whatever that day was, I remember there was a flatbedder there who said he was sitting there for 2 days because the freight rates were just too shitty, and he didn't. There were no loads going out that were paying enough for him to want to take. So, yeah. Tanker, I don't really know, and especially don't know the tanker market in New Jersey, New York, New Jersey area especially. So, yeah, I really can't help you on that particular one. I wish I could, but I would say if you don't like sitting in a dock door very long, all right, go for dry van. I hear dry van does a lot of drop and hook. Maybe watch Riding with Dave's channel. He's a dry van driver with CFI. I don't know how often he does live loads and how often he does drop hooks. Here at JCT, we do mostly drop hook pickups, but live deliveries. And I actually just ran the numbers on my spreadsheet because I have a record of every load I've ever done with JCT, including what trailer number I used for that load. And this was something that we talked about in our Facebook group. And I ended up finding out that I think it was about 70, a little over 70% of my loads were I had one trailer for one load only before I went to a different trailer, and 95% of all of my loads were 2 loads or less before I had a different trailer. I've only had 2 occasions total where I had the same trailer for 5 loads, and I think I had 3 occasions where I had the same trailer for 4 loads. Everything else I've ever done with JCT has been no more than 3 loads, and like I said, 95% of my loads that I do, I don't see that trailer more than 2 loads. But again, and that's drop hook pickups on a lot of the loads, and in live unloads on almost all of them. Only really like the Plainview, Texas deliveries can I think of are Taylor Farms and Dallas. Those are the 2 I can think of offhand that are regularly drop hook deliveries. Otherwise, almost everything is live unload. Again, I don't really care too much if I sit. Get some fat pay out of it. I just got $400 in detention paid on yesterday's paycheck because of sitting at a customer for a long time. Think I'm going to turn that down when I was going to be there? I was there anyway, and it didn't have any impact on my bill. I think I was out of hours or whatever it was. So, or what was it? I don't remember what the deal was, but it didn't have any impact on my ability to go toward another load or keep running or whatever. So why would I turn down that money? $400 in detention pay, that's freaking nice. Yeah, that's a really nice extra addition to my paycheck. Fuck yeah, I'll take that every day. So I don't care about wait times, guys. Maybe some of you guys do, and I get that. It's your cup of tea. It's not my. I don't really care. It makes no difference for me personally. So Mohammed, make your own decision on that. If you mind sitting in a dock door or whatever. And I have a feeling that most people, if they don't want to sit around in a dock door, they're just impatient or just an eternal pessimist, where they aren't happy unless they have something stupid to bitch about in the first place. So I'm laid back. I'm real easy to work with. I don't get pissed off at a lot of stuff. I don't get upset about things not being done my desired way every damn time. Just relax. Otherwise you won't last very long in this industry. or or you won't last very long in life because you'll be stressed out all the time needlessly. All right. So I think I answered that last question you had there too. Why you did work reefer even though it has annoying noise that you have to check the temperature and fill up fuel when needed? Why don't you just do dry van for less headache? All right, so I'll cover a little bit more of that. All right, so I mentioned reefer is more economically secured. I don't want to go bouncing around from carrier to carrier or from one thing to another. It's just, I like variety with where I go to with customers. I love that, but I don't want to be, I have to worry about, am I going to lose my driving position because the well ran dry at this company and now I have to go to some other one, or, they run dry now and I got to go somewhere else again. I don't want to be bouncing around all the time. Reefer noise, okay, well I have chronic tinnitus from my Air Force days, working on airplanes all those years. Reefer unit, it's just white noise to me. It doesn't bother me at all. I can sleep very comfortably with that reefer unit running. Actually, there's a meme that's on Facebook that kind of jokingly say where you can sleep through a tornado or sleep through this or like a train going by or whatever. And then the last one shows like reefer unit quit working, and all of a sudden I think it's a cat sleeping or whatever. It's all of a sudden like, yeah, that kind of thing. Hey, what's wrong with this picture? Yeah, I do catch on to that. Even when I was a trainer, when we were on the freeways, interstates, whatever, and I had a trainee driving, I was catching up on sleep, and I could tell when they were getting tired. I would wake up and I could feel the truck sway just a little bit. Even most of the time they didn't have to wake me up at all. I could feel that they were getting tired because their lane control was getting worse. And then I'm like, okay, I'm up. Let's see how you doing? I'm having a hard time staying awake. So I'm like, okay, no problem. We'll get you off to such and such location. Stop. I'm glad you told me that. I don't want you crashing. And if you need to pull over to be safe, then that's what we're going to do. And then we'll switch seats or something if my 10-hour break is done or something along that line. I catch on. You're not just me. Anybody can do that. If you're whatever you're used to, when it deviates from what you're used to, all of a sudden it's like boom. Like hey, your brain remembers or knows that there's something wrong. Noise doesn't bother me. Reefer units are not as loud as they used to be either. Checking temperatures, not a big deal. I got to do pre-trip checks anyway. I got to walk around the truck and trailer anyway, so is it that big a deal for me to just eyeball the reefer unit, the control panel up here, or stick a thermometer in the back door to see what's going on back there? I have to be there anyway, so is that really any inconvenience at all to me? No, not the least bit. Also, same thing with filling up fuel. All right. That can be a little bit of an inconvenience, especially when I don't get much of my fuel from Pilot Flying J, but I have to get my reefer fuel from Pilot Flying J usually. But yeah, again, if I have to stop for breaks somewhere sometimes, whether it's a 30-minute break or maybe I just want to stop and stretch my legs, use a restroom, get a fresh drink or something. All right, yeah, let's just go ahead and stop at this Pilot Flying J. We'll take care of that now. And I don't have to refuel it every day. It's usually make sure it's topped off when I start the trip. And usually I don't have to fill it again until right before I deliver the load, depending on how many days the load has on it, though. I usually like one that normally takes about 3 to 4 days at most. I don't have to fill it until I'm right before I'm ready to go deliver it, and then I'll max it out right before I deliver it, go make my delivery, and then I still have at least 3/4 fuel before by the time I'm empty. Then I can just start deadheading right from there to a washout facility or to the next shipper. I don't have to worry about fuel. All right, I think that covers all that. That was a lot of good information, a lot of good questions there. I can't believe this ended up being as long as it was, but again, good content. I hope hope it was worth the time taken to watch all this video. If you guys decided to watch all of it, Again, this was intended more for those of you guys who are either outsiders to the industry looking in, whether it just be vicariously or as future truckers yourselves, or if you're a newcomer to the industry and you already have your CDL. All right, so a lot of this is just going to be boring details for an experienced driver. So I won't be surprised if those of you guys with a lot of experience quit watching a long time ago. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this one now, and I'm going to I can get moving and get my ass home tomorrow evening, unless I get swapped off or repower by then, or drop in our drop yard by then. So hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks again for all the questions, and I hope you got a lot of good info out of this, Muhammad. So you guys all have a great night, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.